Good morning, class. I thought I'd just, I'm going to see if there's going to be a lot of demand for this first tutoring session. If not, that's fine because I do realize it's only the second week, right? Um, my plan is that we have at least one or two of these tutoring sessions virtually every week or when demand is needed. Now, Monday and Wednesday, I will be tutoring at the Camden site's library from 10:15 to 11:15. So if you're in the area and you want to come one-on-one, that's fine. You'd have to sign in a sign-in sheet, uh, make sure that you wear the mask, all that stuff. Otherwise, I could also use these tutorial sessions if nobody really shows up or has a lot of questions to sort of preview the week ahead, some of the assignments and stuff to sort of be mindful of. So generally what I usually do is, 10:15, 11:15. If you do show up, don't feel like you need to stay the whole hour. If you got other things, other classes, other commitments, that's fine. You can stay long enough and, you know, until your question is answered. The same thing, I'm going to sort of, see how long, um, if nobody really shows up, I'm probably going to cut this off about 10:30 or so because I got other things. I could be grading, reading, proofreading, that type stuff. And I got another tutorial session uh, about an hour after this one. So we will talk a little bit about what's going on for week 2, week 3, and week 4. So if you look, and I'm going to share here my screen. This is what's going on for week 2. So as you can tell, we're doing a continuation of the narrative workshop, which we're doing part 2 this week, which is a continuation on that blog. So, and I will show you how to go about doing that here momentarily. We're also looking at fragments of positives. That's sort of part of the grammar activity that we are pulling from week 1. We're pulling it into week 2 as well. I give you some handouts online, as well as you have some page numbers in your book that explain writing thesis statements and methods of organizing your writing, which will be helpful moving ahead, not just for the first essay, but for the entire semester. We will look at a piece, Narrow's Only Daughter, which is really a good professional narrative essay. So if you're looking for model examples of how your paper should look, at least for this first essay, or sound, or get a feeling of it, you probably want to look at not only the essay, the student essay in your e-text, which is also another A quality paper, but you want to look at Only Daughter because it's a professional piece, that has been published. So that's a really good piece to look at too. So you have 2 examples there, a student-oriented one and a professional piece. You also have nearly 25 examples if you go back to your blog page, which we're going to talk a little bit about what part 2 of the blog is going to be about, which is going to be the final part of your peer review. So you have many different examples that you can look at as it relates to essay 1. And then we also talk a little bit more about the writing process, and I give you page numbers there. So looking ahead, week 3 hasn't popped up yet on your end. It will. Probably, I may go ahead and make that available a little earlier than the 5th. Probably pop up maybe on after Thursday. But that's when your paper, your essay 1 is going to be due. It's going to be due on September 9th. there will be a Dropbox. You will, upload your Microsoft Word file to that Dropbox. You don't have to wait till the 9th to turn it in. If you feel like you've proofread it, send it to me in smart thinking multiple times, got the help from your peer reviews, then you can go ahead and submit it, earlier. I can go ahead and give it a grade earlier. We will also look at SA2, start talking a little bit about that topic in week 3. And there's a couple other things that you can kind of glance at here, because SA2 is going to deal with description papers, description essays. So I give you page numbers there, and we talk a little bit more about our nouns and articles, which is also going to be a part of your first grammar quiz, which your first grammar quiz will happen or will be due on September 12th. So the grammar quiz is basically going to cover all the grammar that we looked at since week 1. So week 1 grammar, week 2 grammar, week 3 grammar, and week 4 grammar is all fair game on the grammar quiz. Right now, you're probably going to have 2 paragraphs that you're going to have to correct the grammar on. You will be timed. It will be 30 minutes. When your time runs out, if you don't save your work, it's going to submit a blank document. If it submits a blank document, you automatically get a 0, and you can't go back to change that, right? So just be careful. Make sure that you're saving your work often, and you only start the quiz when you're fully prepared. I mean, obviously you want to take it before Sunday, September 12th, but I wouldn't, rush it if you're not really fully prepared. All those grammar activities and exercises that I list here with page numbers, they act as your study guide. Now, you don't have any answer keys in your book. So while you're working on some of those exercises on your own time, if you want to know if you're getting them right or not, you need to email me the page number, the exercise question, and your work so I can double check for you. Otherwise, you're sort of going to be on your own as it relates to studying for these quizzes. Now, I do see that there's somebody online here. How are we doing today? If you can turn your mic on and you can talk to us, that would be helpful. Is it Tanisha? Or you can use the chat box, either one, whatever's easier for you. I will check the chat box, but again, if you have any, need any help with anything, please speak up. Otherwise, we're not going to be here too terribly long because I'm just going to show you about part 2 of our blog, unless you have additional questions. So let's look at the week 2 folder. So again, this is the overview, gives you the page numbers and your e-text. Remember, whatever I don't provide page numbers for, or if there's additional information I think would be helpful for you as we move throughout week 2, I will upload here. So a lot of these things, like that particular reading, you're just going to have to click on it. Like this one, you click on it. It takes you to that reading. You read it, right? This is that professional example. Same thing with the writing process. Click on it. There's a hyperlink there. Methods of organizing your paper. Click on it. There's a hyperlink. Thesis statement. Click on it. Hyperlink. Fragments, comma, splashes, and run-ons. Again, there's a hyperlink. You just click on it. Positives. Here's a video that I did last week, but I pushed it over for this week because it deals with a lot of the stuff that's going to be on that first grammar quiz. So if you haven't watched the video, I actually look at some of the practice exercises in your book and sort of work through them with you. Now, this video is also from last week. It talks about Essay 1, which most everybody seems to be on track with, so you don't necessarily have to watch that again unless you just want to. The original peer review assignment, for whatever reason, just wasn't working for everybody, so that's why I created that blog sort of last minute, because everybody was saying that they were uploading their paper, yet they couldn't find it, and guess what? I couldn't find it either. So I apologize for that. Really, that was the first time I actually used that peer review exercise too. So I don't know if there was a problem on my end, which is possibly that was the case. I followed all the video tutorials and everything that they showed me to do, but it could have been a problem on their end as well. So I think the blog is easier. It's less confusing. And most folks have typed blogs before or uploaded stuff to like a discussion post. So I moved the Essay 1 information in case you still need that. Remember, these folders close at midnight. So midnight every Sunday. So if you need information from these folders that will be helpful for the following weeks, you need to go ahead and download it and print it out and save it to either a file on your computer or put it in a personal folder for this class, so you're not not losing information and you can easily retrieve it. I also talk a little bit more about the narration here, which again, you can find a lot of that information in your book. In fact, it looks like I'm gonna have to reopen this one again because it looks like it shut down on us. So let's see. And it did. So this will be open until Sunday as well. And then we have the second part of the blog. Now, to deal with the first part, which everybody should have got the 100 on, and I will explain the grade here if some folks are still kind of confused with that. So the assignment for last week was basically that you needed to turn in a rough draft of your first essay, your narrative. So I said anywhere from 500 to 750 words. The reason why you needed at least 2 or 3 pages was that when we did the peer review for this week, you needed to have at least 2 or 3 pages so that your classmate would be able to answer those 5 questions that are listed below here. Because you can't really do a decent job by providing feedback to your partner if you only have 1 page or a half a page or just a paragraph. That's really not telling anybody anything. So that's the whole reason why you needed at least 500 to 750 words. So it looks like most folks uploaded their essay, which is good because the only thing you had to do was basically post the blog of your essay, upload it. If you did that, you got your 100. In this case, it's 50. All right, 50 out of 50, that equals 100. Part 2 will be the other 50% of your grade, which deals with these 5 questions. And you're going to have to, it's not going to be as easy as part 1 where you just had to upload. You're really going to have to download one of your classmates' essays. It doesn't matter. I hope everybody sort of picks their own and goes through and does different ones that, I don't have 24 people doing, the first one that pops up. So make sure that you go through. You find one of your classmates' essays to download, go through it, read it multiple times if need be. They're really, for the most part, these are only 2 or 3 pages. You can read these things multiple times because I've already done at least 12 of them since Sunday, multiple times. So it's doable. You just have to, set aside the time to do it. And then after you read, you need to answer those 5 questions where it says congratulate, ask, request, evaluate, summarize. And you're going to do that based on what they call the CARES method of peer reviewing. And the only way that you're going to be able to do that effectively for your grade, as well as do justice for your classmates' rough draft, is to really go through and read their paper. Because that's where the constructive feedback is going to come through, is through your responses to these questions. Each one of these questions that you answer, this is where your grade's going to come in on this, has to be substantial, meaning you can't just go in there and say, well, I agree with this, I like this paper. You're really giving fluff statements, like I said in a previous email. That's not helping your partner out at all. It's not telling them what they need to do to improve their writing, to improve that grade. And you expect that they would do the same for you. I mean, the respect here is really a two-way street. So we're all in this together to help each other, not only improve your writing to get a good grade, but to help each other move on to the next step of writing, right? So make sure that you answer these questions honestly, truthfully, effectively, and completely, because each one of them is going to be worth 20 points. So if you only answer 4, then the highest grade you could possibly make, if your grammar and everything else is correct, will be an 80. So just keep that in mind. If you find yourself unable really to answer all 5, then possibly you need to go back and pick another draft. Because otherwise, the draft that you're reading is not going to help you. And it looks like for the 12 that I've read so far, you can answer these 5 questions if you really go through and read the paper. Now, again, I did send out 12 drafts because the ones that you posted last week, I'm going through and I'm actually looking at them. I'm looking at the grammar, I'm looking at the structure, format, that type deal. So check your student email, because you're going to get your draft coming back to you probably before the end of the week. That way you can, not only use what I say. If you submit it to Smart Thinking, you have another set of eyes look at your work, correct what they say, and then wait for your partner to look at your work going through these questions, and you can correct or take under advisement what they say. By that time, you would have at least 3 sets of eyes that looked at your work. Now, you can still send me in Smart Thinking as many drafts as you think you're going to need to get your grade between now and, I would say, probably September 8th or so, because I'm going to have to put a cut. I'm going to have to drop the window on the drafts that I can see. So just keep that in mind. All right. So let's look at how to go about doing the whole deal with the posting a blog, right, for part 2. So you're going to have to click here again. Now on your end and on my end, it may look a little different, right? This is the blog I posted earlier last week. I think it has those 5 questions in case you need them again. What might be helpful is for you to print these out, or at least copy and paste into a Microsoft Word file that you can follow along and answer as you read your peer's draft. Now, the problem that I was finding also, remember I said that you need to upload Microsoft Word document files. That is true, because otherwise we can't mark on your files, or at least I can't mark and grade your files effectively if you send a PDF. Only thing I can do with a PDF is read it. I can't put any comments on it. I can't highlight it. So in a lot of ways, that provides a disadvantage to you, the writer, because you want the feedback. So make sure that when you submit rough drafts or even final drafts, if you want feedback on them, then you need to submit it as a Microsoft Word attachment. So what you see here, you should be able to go up. You should see these arrows. So you need to find probably your name, which is going to probably be popped up on your end. And you're going to click the arrow to the right. And as you can tell, the first one that pops up on my end is Tanisha's. And what I did was, because I tried to do the comment, which I did have a comment originally, but I deleted that so it wouldn't cause so much confusion, is if you hit comment here, you're not going to be able to do a lot of this, what I did in highlighting. I mean, that's really up to you whether you want to do that. I think it's easier for the reader because then they can really focus in on your answers than just a bunch of black and white, because that's what the comment's going to do. The comment's just going to put stuff in black and white. So what I had to do was I had to go up here and hit edit. And when I hit edit, I was able to copy and paste how it was in my Microsoft Word because I highlighted the stuff. And then I went ahead and hit submit again. Now, you want to be careful that if you're doing the edit that you don't delete the actual draft that was already there. So you don't want to mess with anything that your peer review partner attached. You just want to, post or paste those questions relating to that particular draft that you're reading. You only have to do one. Now, if you feel like you want to do another paper, if you want to peer review somebody else's, you can. But really, the assignment says that you need to peer review somebody and somebody needs to peer review you. So you don't have to feel like you have to go through and peer review all 25 of these. You don't. Chances are you probably don't have enough time to do that. But be selective, because like I said, you're going to use your arrow to find, the next draft. So this one's in a PDF. So when I click on it, the only thing I can do is read it. I can't highlight it. I can't make comments on it. I can tell you this, we can look at some of these that are PDF because I'm recording this session. Hopefully they'll go back and review this. The format here is not what it needs to be either. So if you remember last week, I did send out an email talking about the MLA essay format. I also made a video about it, and you do have free templates that you can use on Microsoft Word. They're built into that program. So one thing is the header is all messed up. It's not double spaced. It doesn't have everything that a header needs to have. So if you look at some of those sample essays in your book, it has the correct headers. Everything needs to be double spaced. Everything needs to be typed in Times New Roman 12. I can check that really easily by downloading your paper. You need to have your last name and your page number always up here in the top right hand corner. As you can tell, there's a lot of space here. Don't do that. A lot of times writers do that because they feel like they don't have enough pages or they don't have enough words. So they think they're tricking the reader. Oh, I'm going to, do triple or quadruple space. He'll never know. It's easy. I can tell just visually looking at this that the spacing and the format is all jacked up. So be wary of that. The other thing is the essay doesn't have a proper title. You can't just call it narrative essay. You can't just call it paper one or essay one. And the worst thing that you can do is just have a essay that doesn't have a title. We know that everybody has to write paper one, essay one, narrative essay. That's a given. What we don't know is the title of individual essays. So your title needs to reflect the writing that comes throughout that whole 3-page paper. It doesn't have to be a really long title. It doesn't have to be a complete sentence. But we need a title. It's like going to the movies and you're going to a movie that's called Untitled. Well, what does that mean? Who knows? Same thing with your essay. When you don't have a title that fits your writing, then what are we reading here? So make sure that your essay has a title. And that, for SA2, SA3, all the essays that we do in here need to follow the MLA format, and they need to have a title. The other thing is, keep in mind that each paragraph you need to tab once or 5 spaces to indent. This person doesn't really look like they are indenting correctly on their paragraphs. So Taylor needs to go back and basically fix the format of this paper. The other thing is, I don't need the header on every page. The header is only on page 1. So if you find yourself having a header on page 2, page 3, you need to get rid of it, because again, it's taking up space. You don't need it. The only thing that you're going to need is going to be your last name, which would be Thompson 3, Thompson 2, and then Thompson 1, whatever the case may be. Make sure, because we talked a little bit about thesis statements this week, that your last sentence of your introduction paragraph is your thesis statement, is your main idea for your entire paper. If you do not have a thesis statement, your paper will run out of gas, because that's the fuel to your paper. Without a thesis statement, chances are you can't get higher than a C on any paper in this class. So make sure that you have a thesis statement that is 1 sentence in length, is complete, and it basically sort of outlines and provides the main idea throughout that entire writing. And you kind of come back to it throughout each one of your paragraphs. You relate to it in some ways. Each one of your body paragraphs, the first sentence should always be your topic sentence. Your topic sentence is basically sort of like a mini thesis for that particular paragraph. It tells your audience what that paragraph is going to be about. Be careful that you're not trying to cram too much in to one paragraph. Really, it's one idea per paragraph. So you should only have one major idea in your topic sentence of each one of your paragraphs. If not, that can cause issues with organization and with development. And it could really just screw up your whole narrative here. Because if you're not sort of following your thesis statement, and you don't really have effective topic sentences, then it can be really hard to follow your paper. The same thing is, the last sentence of each one of your paragraphs should be sort of like a concluding sentence. You wrap up what you're talking about in that paragraph, but you also sort of transition, or you segue smoothly into your next body paragraph. So you sort of wrap up what you're talking about in that particular paragraph, but you sort of leave it open, and you give passageway to whatever that next paragraph and what you're going to talk a little bit about in that particular paragraph to come. So just keep that in mind, right? The thesis statement and the topic sentence, really, those should be review items. You learn about topic sentences and thesis statements really as early as, 3rd or 4th grade. So there's really nothing new to essay writing, except maybe the format. The format might be a little bit different than what you're used to, or the genre of writing. So let's go back. And again, that's one particular paper. You hit the right arrow, you get another one. Click here, you download it, you read it, you answer those 5 questions, and then you go back. You can use the comment box if you want, but again, you're not going to be able to highlight stuff like I did when I showed you the first paper that I did. If you want to do a lot of that copy and paste and highlighting, you're going to have to go back to this little drop down arrow, click it, hit edit. It's going to look like this, and then you want to post your work here, or you can attach your file if you want to save it as a Microsoft Word. What you do not want to do is mess with the original essay. Leave that alone and just hit post entry. You can also attach your file to it, but you might want to make sure that you let that particular student or writer know that, hey, check the attached file, download it to see my response to those 5 questions. Otherwise, they may not know where to check or where to go. So again, I think on here right now, because some folks did not turn it in, there is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. So there's 14 papers. And I believe there's nearly 18 or 20 students in our class. So about 4 or 5 people just didn't turn it in, or they never logged in to the class. So again, if you didn't log in, you got counted as a no-showed and you were dropped from the course this past Monday because I didn't receive any emails. College has a policy. If you don't show up within the first 7 days of class, you don't turn in that first assignment. That was the whole reason why we had part 1 due on Sunday. Basically means that you did not log into the course, you're not part of the course, whatever the case may be. So again, you may freak out if you look at your grade, because it's going to say 50 out of 100 now instead of 50 out of 50. The reason that is because part 2 is due Sunday. So you go through and you complete these questions as it relates to proofreading, peer reviewing your partner's paper. Based on your answers and how well you style and structure and all that stuff with these questions, this grade will improve. If you do it correctly, no problems with grammar, no problems with spelling, you answer all 4 questions or 5 questions, you do it with substantial beneficial information that's going to help that student with their paper, then you will get the other 50 points and it'll be 100 out of 100. If you're lacking in certain areas, it may be an 80 out of 100. It may be a 75 out of 100. It may be a 90 out of 100. So the grade will improve as long as you go through this peer review session with your particular partner's draft, whatever partner that you choose at that time. If you don't do part 2, then you turned an essay in last week, then your grade's going to remain a 50. So it's going to be 50 out of 100, which is basically 50, right? It's an F. These things are not a big chunk of your grade. I think they're only worth 10% overall. We do more of these as we go through the coming weeks. So there is a way to improve that particular grade. But again, the 10% really is that difference between that A and B, or that B and C at the end of the semester. So you don't want to sort of shortchange on these assignments because they benefit both parties involved. They're going to benefit your partner because they're going to help them hopefully get a better grade and become a better writer. They're going to help you because it's going to improve your grade from part 1. And hopefully when somebody looks at your draft, that will also help you in the long run finalize your own particular essay 1 to become a better writer, to get a better grade, so on and so forth. So these assignments should really help everybody, not only in the grade department, but also help everybody in the writing department as well. And it will help as it comes to preparing for quizzes and that type of stuff, because if you see something that is misspelled, or if the grammar doesn't seem right, or if a comma needs to go in a certain place, point it out. The whole purpose of this is to make us all aware of these issues so we can improve from essay 1 to essay 2 to essay 3, so on and so forth. My purpose and my hope is that you become a better writer over time. Your grades improve over time. And you leave the second week of December knowing more, knowing how to write better at a professional, scholarly, and academic level than you did week one. If we can achieve that, then everything that you learn in this class will be helpful and beneficial in some way in other classes. I can guarantee that. Because you're probably going to have to write more papers. You're going to have to do more research papers. Whether you stay with us until you graduate or whether you transfer to a bigger university. At some point, the quizzes and tests go away. You get evaluated by how well you write. How well do you conduct research? Especially if you have to take English 1102 or American Lit or World Lit. There's a lot, besides the reading, there's just a lot of writing. And you have to be able to write effectively, scholarly, and efficiently. So essays, depending on your major, probably are not going to go away. I know you write them in psychology, you do them in history, you pretty much do them in any English class that you're going to have to take. Anything humanity related, you're going to have to write something, sometimes multiple research papers. Even math, at some point, you may have to write a research paper, or biology or chemistry. I know nursing does research papers. The only place that you probably won't do a whole lot of research papers maybe like culinary arts or HVAC, which there you may be doing more technical writing because you may be writing instruction manuals or recipes. So you're still having to do some sort of writing, which may involve research. And we know by looking at manuals online or recipes online, if somebody leaves out a important ingredient or important part of that manual for trying to build, let's say you're trying to build your baby's crib, and they skip a lot of steps but give you a whole bunch of tools to use, you're not going to know what to do unless you're already sort of familiar about building a crib or something. So that's where good, effective, concise, to the point writing comes from. Even with daily emails to your instructor, to your boss, to your customers, you're going to have to be able to communicate with them not only verbally but also in writing. And if they can't understand what you're trying to get across, then if it's a customer, they're probably not going to come back. They'll go somewhere else. If it's your boss, they'll probably look at you and think, well, you went to college, you got a degree, why are we paying you $15 or $20 an hour if you can't use the simple spell and grammar check? They'll find somebody else who knows what they're doing. So just be mindful of that stuff, because it all will come back to either be a benefit to you later on, or it'll all come back and haunt you later on. If you got kids in public school, which a lot of us do, at some point, they're going to have to write essays and do research papers. So you can use that as a teachable moment because you're learning it now. You can spread the wealth and help them out when they're struggling. So you're not having to go hunt down a tutor that may charge you $30 an hour to do what you can do for free, because now you have that skill set, you have that knowledge. You can pass it on. And you're also, when you're teaching this stuff, you're sort of relearning it again as well, which makes a good teacher. So not only are you helping your kid, but you're helping yourself relearn it again. It stays fresh in the mind. It's like that algebra. A lot of y'all are probably taking college algebra online now, which is difficult. Math in itself is a language of numbers, but now you got to plug it into a computer program It's not, it's not like it was back in high school where you write it down on a piece of paper. The computer program could be picky about how you put your answer in. Even though that your answer is right, they may take it off or count it wrong because you don't have it set up correctly or you didn't type it in correctly. But that's like anything, right? A lot of times with algebra, how many times are you going to use the quadratic equation to balance your checkbook and pay bills? Chances are, unless you're going to be a teacher or an engineer, you're probably really never going to use that quadratic equation until your kid comes up who's in 9th or 10th grade algebra. Hey, can you help me with this quadratic equation problem? Because I know that you had math a couple years ago. And hopefully, chances are you can. Because of that, there again, you can avoid going out and paying a high price tutor for something that you've already learned and that you can teach them. And it's sort of like relearning it. It's going through that process. You get to spend some quality time, educational time with your own children. You can see what ticks with them as it relates to their ability to solve problems and to figure out things. Because there's a lot of joy in that, especially with our busy lives. A lot of times we don't have that chance to really spend with our kids. Or if it, because we work long hours and they're at school a good part of the day. So just keep that in mind moving ahead. For the most part, that's really all I wanted to show everybody for today. Unless, if you're on here, if you have additional questions, we can talk about those or address those. Let's see if I can get out of this. But that's how you would do part 2 of that blog exercise for this week. And like I said, pretty much each week I'm going to try to have a virtual tutor session that you can join if you want. Stay as long as you want. I will try to record most of these, so if you didn't make it, even though we might not have done a lot with tutoring so much, we did have a little small lecture here. You can always review and listen to it as it relates to other things that we discussed as it relates to week 2. So unless you have any additional questions, we can probably end it here. Do we have any additional questions or comments? I'm checking the chat log here and I don't see anybody posting anything. I think somebody sent an email about the voice. The voice is on my end, so it might be off on yours. As I see the little green microphone and it's moving up and down. So if you're having problems with voice, check to see if your microphone is turned on or if your volume is up. All that stuff for me is at the bottom of the screen. Which, whoa, that's not what I wanted to do. But it's right here. It'll be on the very bottom of your screen. It should have like a little person. It has the mic. I think it has the cam and something else. So if your volume is off, chances are it's probably on your end somewhere. If you're using a tablet or the phone, that could be an issue too, because I'm using a desktop. So double check that to see. Otherwise, I hope everybody has a good week too, and I will be in touch.